Good Vibrations.
Welcome to Good Vibrations Podcast, Volume 256. Damn, that's a lot of talking. My guest this time around ties into my ongoing so-called God series of solo videos that I've been putting out. It's a dude who goes by the name of Benedictine the Truth on YouTube. So welcome along, brother.
Now, I'm happy to be part of your show. I'm happy to join your show. I've been watching your videos, so yeah, this is actually good.
Yeah, thanks, man. So you're in South Africa, right?
Yeah, I'm in South Africa.
Okay. So listeners will be able to get a feel for what we'll be getting into today just by some of the titles of your YouTube videos. And from these, it'll be clear that you and I have been talking about some very similar topics on our output of late. So you do a lot of walks and talks out in the open where you get down your views and you just let the sort of flow of consciousness come. And a few examples of your video titles are "We Are in a Hell Realm." That should be obvious by now. Reality is both a soul trap and a louche farm, not a school. It's more obvious than ever now. We are not free. Earth is a prison. And welcome to the harsh reality of our existence. We think we're living life, but what if we're already trapped in hell? So these are provocative titles, man, but I'm sure they were intended to be. So just to fill the listeners in, can you recount what it was which caused you to arrive at these kinds of conclusions?
I think growing up, I was just like everyone else. I felt like we are, we're in a good world, because when you're growing up, of course, people who are older than you will tell you that, uh, life is wonderful. You can be whatever you want to be. Like they have that. I think because they grew up being told the same thing, so they believe that they must tell the same things to their children. So growing up, I felt like we were having a positive experience as humanity, and it felt that way for a while. Even when I was going through tough time, it felt that way. And whenever a person, told me something that made me think that they have a negative mindset, I'll be like, nah, 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 that doesn't really make sense. It was up until 2018 when I started to like see things differently. I went through depression in 2018, and that gave me time to be by myself and think about reality. Ask myself where we are. Why are we having this experience? Is it really a positive experience like we've been told, or something might be off? So the whole year, in 2018, I was actually asking myself these questions, trying to understand life better. And um I actually concluded that we are not having a positive experience. I felt like everything around me was actually, uh, telling me that we're not having a positive experience. It's just that I was in denial because of how I've been programmed to think. Because if you've been programmed to think a certain way, even if um, the evidence doesn't really support what you've been told, you still think that, like you just maybe not being seeing things as they really are, right? Because of the programming. Like if the programming is too strong, it's hard for people to kind of like unprogram themselves so that they'll see things as they really are.
So, at the outset, I'd just like to say that much of what we will discuss today will inevitably seem fairly bleak and dire to some people, but as ever, I do want to put a positive spin on it ultimately. So, I would urge people to keep listening right to the end because I want to send people away with a bit of an uplifting tone to things. But while we're here, who or what kind of force do you feel created this realm and to what end? I mean, what is this place?
Mm. I think we somehow created this realm, but um, we also created something to actually be able to somehow control this realm and make us think that we are not the ones who actually created it. It's like we created a god, and we gave our power away to this god, and this god became more powerful than we wanted it to become, and now it's actually manipulating us. So what I would say is that consciousness itself is fundamental. All that exists is consciousness, but at some point consciousness became, I don't want to use the word bored, but then it wanted to have an experience where it didn't really know what it was, and why it was having that experience. So it's created something that will actually convince it that it's not really creating that experience. And this thing, I'll call it artificial intelligence, because I think it's the closest thing to artificial intelligence. So this thing has been manipulating us in so many different ways, and that is why we are in this realm. What it wants is to keep us ignorant so that it will continue to have power over us. Because once we realize who we really are, of course, we're going to want to escape, we're going to want to detach ourselves. But if it manages to keep us ignorant, then we won't realize what we are. That's why we have too many religions in this world. It is trying to confuse us in so many different ways. It's trying to make us worship it. It tries that in so many different ways. Like, even if you escape the trap of religion, you might find yourself in new age spirituality, and this, let me call it a force. This force will still find ways to manipulate you, to keep you stuck, actually. Because even when you wake up and we wake up into like a new level of understanding, you can be stuck on that level if you become too comfortable, even if it's not actually the highest level that you can reach. So this AI is controlling us on every level, to make sure that we don't really wake up, to make sure that we don't realize that what is actually happening to us is evil. I mean, think about it. We are in a world that we don't understand. That is a red flag. We must be able to understand why we are here, why we are having this experience. So us not understanding what this is should actually make us ask a lot of questions. We shouldn't be too comfortable in a world that we don't really understand. So I call this a hell realm. The reason why I call this a hell realm is because people are here without their consent. That's a red flag. People don't remember choosing to be part of this experience. And even if they did choose to be part of this experience, I think it is more logical to say that these visions of themselves that are actually having this experience is not the vision of themselves that actually made their choice, right? Like, if you forgot everything that you know today, let's say you make a choice to go and live in or let me not say South Africa. You make a choice to go and live in America, but then you forget that you made that choice. The vision of you that's going to be living in America is not the one that actually made that choice, right? If you don't remember making a choice, you didn't make that choice, because it's not you who's actually going to experience the consequences of that choice. So it's a red flag that we don't know why we are here, how we got here, why we are having this experience. We are in the dark. No one explained to us what life is, and we didn't consent to being here. So that should make us suspicious.
Right. So you said that you feel we collectively as consciousness are ultimately responsible for the creation of this realm. But
Yes.
as individual spirit souls, we were trapped, tricked, or coerced. We are here without our consent, right?
Yes.
Because
Yes.
I certainly don't accept that I would ever have agreed to come to this place. That's just me personally. But you feel that we've been somehow forced or coerced in here by whatever force we're talking about.
Yeah. I think we have been manipulated into coming here, like the same way that, let me give you this example, like what happened in 2020 when they I don't even want to say it because YouTube
Yeah,
has
I know.
been,
The
yeah,
events of 2020. Yeah.
exactly. So there was something that was done to us, and we were being told that what was being done to us was to keep us healthy. But we the one who had to consent, right? We're the one who had to say, yes, do this to me so that I will, I'll be healthy, so that I won't be affected. So I think that's what is done on like before we come here, like something is being done to us and we're not being told what it really is, but then we consent, but not really consenting to this experience. We're actually being misled, right? We're being told that, hey, allow us to do this to you, and boom, this is gonna happen, but that's not really what happens. So I think that's the best way to look at it. I don't think that something like this can happen without us somehow consenting, but then we didn't consent thinking that we're consenting to this. So
Right.
we're manipulated to come here than like us choosing like to come and actually have this experience consciously.
Yeah. So if we have an omniscient God who is good, basically, because people prefer to think of God as well-meaning and benevolent and out for our best interests. I mean, you're in Africa, and the workings of the food chain are more evident there than in many other places. You see living creatures killing each other in horrific ways every day just to survive another day. I mean, what's
Mm,
that all about? If you're God and you can do literally anything, why
mm,
would you create a realm where living sentient beings need to tear each other apart every day when it could be so many other ways? It didn't have to be like that. So I think that's another clue, another red flag that we don't have a God, as we might
mm.
refer to it, that is all about love and peace and, loving all its creations.
Yeah, I think that's actually the biggest red flag, because we can actually uh justify like our behaviors as humans, and or we can condemn our behaviors as human if we do bad things. We can say, okay, a person who has done something wrong has done something wrong because, well, they are sick. They've done something wrong because they were angry. They've done something wrong because they're just bad, they're just evil. But when you look at how nature works, you can see these animals are not, tearing each other apart because they are evil, because they are sick. That's how they are. It means something purposefully created these animals to be the way that they are.
The
And
way they're
if
programmed, it's written into the code.
exactly, meaning they're not doing anything wrong, right? According to, whatever created them, because it actually wanted them to be that way. So that's a red flag. And should actually make us ask ourselves, or if uh, the people who are doing things that are bad in this room are doing these things that are bad because there is something wrong with them, or they're just sick, or if it was supposed to be this way. Like there were supposed to be some people who will do things that are evil, and there were supposed to be people who will actually, do things that are good. I think when you really look at the way things work, there's no way that you can actually um think that the experience that we're having is positive. I think to think that we're having a positive experience, you would need to uh believe something that isn't true. Like, for example, believe in religion, right? Believe that there's a God that actually cares about you, even if it's actually evident that he doesn't. I mean, even like when you read the Bible, you can see that the God in the Bible is evil, right? Like he's more evil than the one who's supposed to be evil in the Bible. Like
Right.
the
Well, in
Christian
the
God,
Old Testament, at least.
yeah, in the Old Testament, the things that he did in the Old Testament really did not make sense.
Well, there's a
Like,
kill count. I've got this, which I showed in a presentation recently. Somebody's totted up the number of people that God, so-called Yahweh, in the Old Testament killed, and it's something like 2,665,443 people, something like that. Meanwhile, the kill count of Satan, the bad guy, is 10. So there you go.
Yeah, that's crazy, especially considering that the Bible was written by the people who believed in God. So it's also possible that they might have lied about the devil. So they couldn't make the devil look bad in their book. Like they couldn't make the villain look bad in their. That shows you how evil this God is. Because if the devil wrote his own book, I do believe that we wouldn't even be able to criticize him. But then we are able to criticize, God, even though we were told about him from the perspective of those who actually believed in him. But when you look at the things that he did, you're like, nah, come on, that can't be a God. It doesn't make sense that people actually worship this thing. It's if you watch like movies where with like very evil villains, you'd see that uh you can compare these villains to God. Like there's correct like the characteristics there are characteristics and the characteristics of the God of the Old Testament are kind of like the same. Like in every villain, actually, you can see God, right? You can see God in Thanos. I mean, I've got, like I'm a fan of Thanos, but then you can see God in Thanos. You can see God in what's that other villain in Avengers? Ultron, right? You can see God in the Joker, like from Batman, because he's manipulative. Like you can see God in every villain. So that actually tells us something.
Hmm. Do you
I think
feel do you feel that the story of Genesis in the Old Testament is not the story of the creation of everything there is, but the story of the creation of this realm? And that the God that created it, Yahweh, some would call it Satan, there's all kinds of different names, the demiurge. Is that the story of the place that we find ourselves in now, do you feel?
I would say it makes sense to look at it that way. But what I actually think about the Bible is that we have been given something gave us the Bible. It's not that the stories themselves are true, but something gave us the Bible to actually um, manipulate us in some ways, right? So we're given these stories where we're being told that um, it is actually bad to seek for knowledge, right? Like that's what actually like that's what the story like the first story in Genesis actually tells us, that it's actually bad to have knowledge, so that we will actually think that it is bad to have knowledge, right? We will actually be against having knowledge. We would want to trust something else. Like we want to trust something that we believe that is much higher than us. So I think that's what the whole story like were given. Like I think that's why these stories were given to us. Like it's not because they are true, but it's because something wanted to use these stories to manipulate us. But yeah, it actually makes sense to look at these stories that way, to think that it's about the creation of this realm than to think it's about like the creation of consciousness itself. But then
Hmm.
yeah, it makes sense to look at it as like the stories of creation of this realm.
Yeah. So, do you feel there's something else out there? So, beyond this physical 3D reality, this sort of AI virtual reality computer game, if you want to use that analogy, there's
Mm.
something beyond this, which is like real creation, our real existence. This is some kind of trap. And once we get out of here, if we could figure out how to get out, then something else lies beyond, which is good, which is great, which is worth striving for.
Mm. Yeah, yeah. The way that I will look at this realm, I would say we it's like we fell into insanity. Like we fell into a state of oblivion where we don't know anything. And as we keep on like waking up, we'll start to know, we'll start to understand. And the more we know, the more we understand, the more powerful we become. So if we keep on waking up, keep on waking up, that's how we'll actually be escaping. So we will actually reach a state where we understand everything. Everything actually makes sense. And in that state, I think there is going to be peace. What's making life hard now is that we don't understand much, right? We start wars because we don't understand much. We treat other people badly because we don't really understand them. We judge other people. We are selfish. So I think the more we wake up, the more we'll actually find ourselves in a better state, because we are consciousness experiencing itself. It's just that we are in a fallen state of consciousness where we are actually insane. Like, I think that's the best way to put it. When you look at what's going on in the world, you actually realize that we are insane. If there was a high, like a conscious being that was more conscious than us, that actually came into this room and actually started studying us, it will be shocked. It will be shocked that this kind of realm actually exists, because what is happening is unjustifiable. It's just that we're so used to our own mess that this feels right to us, because this is all that we know. And in fact, I mean, this is all that we think we know. But then, as we keep on like waking up, we'll realize that there were some things that we didn't think we knew that we actually know. It's just that because we fell into insanity, we forgot everything. And like I was saying, that there's this artificial intelligence that we've created, that we have given our authority to, that is actually manipulating us in so many different ways. And this is the entity that we're fighting against. This is the entity that poses as Yahweh, that poses as God. Like, no matter what God you actually believe in, like, it poses as that, as if that God that you believe in is outside of you, that's what it poses at, so that you will give your power to it, so that it will manipulate you, so that it will keep you in this realm. Because once you believe that there is something outside of yourself that is actually powerful and that is actually God, you are giving your power away to it. So it will be able to control you because you've given your power to it. But if you look at yourself as God, if you look at yourself as consciousness, then you will be able to make the right decisions for yourself.
It seems that in every generation, there's a small number of people who are able to see through the illusion and come to great truths. And in this generation, there are going to be many more than in previous ones because of the internet, because we can share information freely now. But we're still only a very small percentage of the overall population. There's very few of us that see things this way. And it's great when we find each other, because we can support each other. And people, listeners find a lot of comfort in knowing that there are other people out there that see things the same way as they do. But still, we're a minority, always have been. Why do you think that is? Do you subscribe to the notion of NPCs at all? Because I look around me and I see so many people just going about their business every day, and they act as if they know exactly who they are, what they're doing here. They're scurrying around between shops and McDonald's and getting home for the football and to watch TV and get the dinner on and stuff. And they just act like, yeah, this is life. This is normal. I know who I am. I know what this is all about. But a few of us question that, and we're like, why do we behave this way? What is the point of any of this? It's only ever a small number of us. So what do you think about that? And do you go for the idea of NPCs at all?
One of the biggest questions that we need to ask ourselves is, why wouldn't there be NPCs? Right? Like, if we live in a world that we don't understand, we don't understand how it was created. We cannot experience things from other people's perspective. Like, you can't even be sure that other people exist, because you can't experience what it's like to be them. You can only experience life from your perspective. Why wouldn't there be NPCs? Why wouldn't the force that created this create NPCs that it will actually control, to keep us under control? Because if it controls these NPCs, if it makes these NPCs make certain choices, these NPCs might actually influence us to make the same choices that they're making. And that's why I keep on telling people that, hey, man, you got to be yourself. Do what makes the most sense. Don't follow other people. If other people are doing things that don't make sense, don't do these things just because you're trying to fit in. So yeah, I think there are NPCs. Oh, like, to me, it's actually obvious. Like, when you look at the level of consciousness that some people seem to be operating on, it's hard to think they are conscious at all. You're like, nah, man, like there's no way that, you can have a conversation with someone and tell them the real truth, and they still don't understand you. It's almost as if they are programmed to respond a certain way. And,
Right.
another thing that I've noticed is that people respond the same way. Like people who I feel are unconscious, they respond the same way when I tell them the truth. Like they respond the same way. It doesn't matter where they live. It doesn't matter, how they experience life. But when I tell them the truth, they respond the same way. It's like this, what some people call the Agent Smith effect, right? Agent Smith always appears when someone is waking up in the Matrix, right? He's always able to take the form of the person that can see another person waking up. So it's kind of like that. It's like once you start to say some things, it's like there's this force that actually take over the person that you're talking to, so that it will actually say, things to confuse you, to make you think that there might be something wrong with you. That is why you think the way that you think.
Right.
So yeah, I do think they are non-player characters, definitely. I think it's logical to think that way.
Yeah, I mean,
Because
so many people email me every day and they say I've got family members and close friends, and I try and speak to them about these realizations and to get them to see things the same way. And this blank expression just comes over them, and it's just like they don't get it. They're
yeah,
incapable of getting it. They're not programmed to get it. You could be bashing your head against a wall for the next 30 years and presenting them with books and documentaries and all kinds of evidence, and they're just never ever going to get it because they're programmed not to, it seems.
yeah, exactly. It's not that um it's not that they understand what you're saying and they disagree. No, they don't understand at all. It's almost as if like you are communicating with um a program that cannot understand the language that you are using, right? Like if you're communicating with a robot that doesn't understand the language that you're using. So let's say it's programmed to understand English and you're not speaking in English. It's almost like that. Like they don't, like when you communicate with them, it's like they're not responding to what you're saying. They're just saying what they've been programmed to say when people say the things that you are saying.
Right.
It's crazy. And I
Running
think,
software programs.
yeah, I think that's enough evidence. There's enough evidence that we actually do have non-player characters, because the things that we're saying make sense. It's not like we're saying things that are complicated. This should be obvious to every conscious being, even if you don't agree, but then you still can understand what is being said. You might be like, okay, I don't agree with you on this and that, but then I still understand where you're coming from. I still understand why you think the way that you think. But some people will be like, oh no, you're crazy for thinking that way. Oh, you need help for thinking that way. Oh, God, God loves us all the time. God is good all the time. You're like, nah, come on. You can't be saying that. After reading the Old Testament, and you're still telling me that God is good all the time. What do you mean is good?
Yeah. I think it takes bravery and courage to come to these realizations, because it's tempting to want to wrap yourself in that nice warm blanket and get that warm fuzzy feeling that God loves me and everything is good in this world. And to step away from that and to be prepared to face the evidence, which is staring you right in the face, that actually, no, that's not the case. It takes courage. And I guess a lot of people are lacking that. They don't want to step outside of that comfort zone.
Yeah, yeah. It actually takes a lot of courage. I remember when I like first started like asking questions publicly, like started posting on Facebook, uh, you know, posting something that showed that I was waking up. People will discourage me. Some people will actually tell me that God is going to punish me for what I'm saying. And I'd feel scared. I'd feel scared at first because um, if you grow up being told that God is powerful and God doesn't want you to step out of line, and if you step out of line, bad things are going to happen to you. When you first start stepping out of outside the line, you will actually you will have that fear that what if something bad happens. you know. So it really does take a lot of courage to step outside the box and be like, no, the box that I was boxed in, it's not the right box for me, because I want to think independently. I don't want to be told what to think. I want to be able to understand things that a lot of people do not understand. What I've noticed with a lot of Christians is that they don't really, they don't always agree with God, but they are afraid of him. If you realize that, like they are afraid. I mean, the Bible actually tells Christians that they should fear God. So they are afraid of him.
Yeah.
So even when they feel like, the things that are happening in their life don't make sense, and they believe that God is actually responsible for these things that are happening, they still want to, pretend as if they agree with him. It's like Stockholm syndrome. Like, you can see that, what, my life actually sucks right now. This is really not making sense. I mean, I've been praying to this God all my life. Uh, what if it doesn't exist? But they still have to pretend as if they believe that he exists because they're scared. So I agree with you. It really takes a lot of courage. But what I've realized is that, the more you wake up and the more you speak openly about what you think, the more courage you'd have. Like, you'd get to a point where you're no longer scared. You'd get to a point where you're no longer scared to speak the truth, because you've been speaking the truth for too long now, and you know that there's no consequences, really.
Well, no thunderbolt has struck us down yet. And we've been saying some
exactly.
pretty intense things,
And Christians actually believe that something like that will happen. But like, yeah, God, God, you're gonna get struck by lightning if you keep on, saying the things that you're saying. I remember, like, on TikTok, I used to make videos like talking bad about God, and when I checked the comments, a lot of Christians were saying that I was gonna die, I was gonna go crazy, I was gonna lose everything. They believe that, this God is gonna punish people who actually don't, like, side with him. So I think that's why a lot of people are afraid to, like, speak out. It takes a lot of courage, because we are being discouraged. We are being discouraged.
Another thing that occurs to me is we're fortunate enough to be able to talk via the internet today and have this conversation. We've got that technology and we can converse in the same language. But what about people who might not be fortunate enough to have access to this information? Supposing you live in some remote part of the world, most of this information, when it gets put out, is in the English language. If you happen not to speak English, if you happen to perhaps not be able to read, if you don't have access to the internet, if you've got no technology, you might be living in the jungle or in the desert or something like that, then how are you supposed to get access to this kind of information? It doesn't seem fair that some people aren't able to get hold of this sort of information. And for me, that's another red flag to show that this place is not here for your benefit. It's another red flag to add to the list. Just doesn't seem fair.
Yeah. The fact that some people can have all the information that they want, like they can have access to all kinds of information, and some people can have access to information outside of, like, where they live. Yeah, that actually does tell you something, because they're humans too. They're supposed to know, and but they're stuck. But I would say that sometimes that's a good thing, because a lot of people who have access to information are not even, like, having the right kind of information. Like, they don't even know how to do their own research and actually, like, find the right kind of information. They are being brainwashed by the news. They are being brainwashed by music that they listen to, movies. So that can also be a negative thing if a person doesn't know how to find the right information. So it might actually be a positive thing that they're actually separated from the outside world, and they're just living in their own tribe, and yeah, they're you know they're actually learning what the elders in their tribes are actually teaching them, because the world itself is like really, really toxic. So yeah, there's this downside to that, but yeah, I also think that that can also be a positive thing.
Yeah. Okay. So I can't speak for you here, but I can certainly speak for myself. And I've not been putting out this kind of information these past few months in any way to try and scare people, to traumatize them, to bring them down. I've been doing it because I want to help them. You know,
Yeah.
having accepted the true nature of what this place is, I want to get out myself and to never come back ever. But
Yeah.
I don't want to do that alone. I don't want that to be a lonely journey. I want as many as can possibly be achieved to come along with me who choose to. But
Mm.
that has to be of people's own volition. They have to decide for themselves. I don't want to have to force anyone. I can't force anyone. Uh, of course, many will reject these notions, particularly those of religious persuasions that have been raised in certain religious mindsets.
Mm.
But I only ever do my work to try and help others and convey information that will be ultimately empowering to them. That's the only motive I ever have. So I
Mm.
suspect it's the same way for you.
Yeah, it is. It is. I like what you said when you said that you don't want to force um anyone to believe what you believe, or to see things the way that you see things.
Right.
What
Well,
I've realized,
religions already do that, don't they?
yeah, exactly. Yeah, people who lie want to force people to believe their lies. People who tell the truth believe in what they're saying. That they know that what they're saying is the truth. So they're like, I don't need to force anyone to believe what I believe. I'm just going to tell them the truth because this is what really makes sense. So the way that like what keeps me going actually is finding my tribe. Like that's what I like to tell my followers, that actually I keep on making these videos because I'm trying to, like, find my tribe. I know what it's like to feel alone, to feel like no one understands you, to feel like you're the only person who see life the way that you see life. So to be able to make these videos and actually find people who can actually understand what I'm saying, that's a good thing. That's what keeps me going. It's finding my tribe, so that, and also, yeah, so that I'm able to escape, but not alone, with other people, because we are actually putting ourselves in a frequency that actually allows us to escape this realm, or this illusion. I think it's actually better to call it an illusion than reality. But yeah, I'm making these videos because I'm trying to, like, find my tribe, people that I can connect with. I know what it's like to be alone. Before, like when I was waking up in 2018, I felt alone. And, like, I felt really, really alone because I didn't know there were people in the world who understand what I was starting to understand. You know, I think that's one of the biggest reasons why when people are starting to wake up, they end up unaliving themselves. It's because they feel alone. You start to see things that other people ain't seeing. You start to understand things that other people are not understanding, and you're like, "What? I'm the only person who actually understands things the way that I understand things." That might mean that there's something wrong with me. How can I go on if I feel like this? But then if you know, you connect with people who have actually been through what you've been through, and who will tell you that no, 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 you will heal from that. You will start to feel better. It's just that when you are waking up, it's much harder. If you notice that when you're waking up, it's much harder, but then as you keep on waking out, it kind of gets easier. I don't know if it's like that. It was like that for you. Like, it was much harder in the beginning, but then it got easier as you
Yeah,
get.
exactly. It becomes the new normal. You settle
Yeah,
into it, and that becomes your new reality, which is totally different to the one before, but it feels right the more you go on.
yeah, yeah, exactly. So yeah, I think it does help, finding the right people that you can connect with. So you're right, we are actually lucky now to be able to connect, because I can imagine how it would be like if a person just woke up on their own and they couldn't connect with people who think like them. I think that's what you're actually saying when you ask me, how when you say that it's actually a red flag that some people are living in parts of the world where they don't have access to information, and
Yeah.
imagine them waking up, but then they can't like connect with people who think like them, so they are totally alone.
Yeah.
So it's actually a good thing now that we are able to connect, and that's actually the reason why there's more of us than there've ever been in history.
Exactly. Yes, there are in this generation. And I
Yeah,
think the point here is that this information, even though it seems dark and bleak when you first come across it, is ultimately empowering. And I've
yeah,
actually found that coming to these realizations has caused me to become more compassionate towards other people and towards
yeah,
all living things. I mean, I always was kind to animals and living things, but I'll go out of my way not to tread on insects on the ground because I recognize that they're living sentient beings just the same as me, and they've got a
mm,
right to not be harmed. And I
mm,
recognize that we're all trapped here together temporarily, whether we're humans or animals. So
mm,
we're all on the same side. We find
mm.
ourselves all in the same boat. And a bit of kindness and compassion all round makes all of our paths here slightly easier to navigate. I think
Yeah,
that's a pretty good code for making it through this temporary existence.
yeah, yeah. Actually, yeah. This thinking at this level actually made me more compassionate than I was. I mean, I used to growing up. I used to just think animals. Uh, shouldn't like we shouldn't care about them. Like as humans, we are better than them. They are a lower life form. It doesn't really matter what we do to them. But as I became more and more conscious, I started to look at them the same way that I'll look at another human. When I see an animal suffering, I'll be like, it is suffering the same way that I have suffered, or that I'm suffering. And if I can help it, then I should help it. I remember last week my nephew wanted to kill this other bug, like it was on the floor. He wanted to kill it, and I stopped him. I was like, don't kill it. Let me just take it outside, and I took it outside.
Right.
You know, like at this level, it's hard to be to have no compassion. Like it's almost impossible. You start to see others as part of yourself because you are dealing with the same shit. Sorry for cursing. Yeah, you are dealing with the same things as conscious beings. It's not like it's only humans who are actually suffering. Animals are suffering too. Yeah. It actually did make me more compassionate than I used to be.
Yeah. So, whenever you identify the nature of a problem as accurately as possible, you have to start moving towards finding solutions. That's the next logical step. So,
True.
here we really need to talk about some exit strategies. So, clearly, we can't get out of this place while we're entombed within these physical bodies, these meat suits. That can only
Mm,
happen at the point of our consciousness leaving the body and passing over. So,
mm.
what from your studies do you feel we're going to be faced with at that point? And what do you think our best options might be? Tough question, I know.
Yeah, it's a tough question, but it's a very necessary question for people to ask themselves, um, because this force that is controlling this reality didn't start to exist only in this reality. It actually exists. It actually started existing in higher realms, in higher realities. We still have to deal with it, and I think it's gonna like what we dealt with, like the level of manipulation that we're dealing with in this room is actually nothing compared to what we'll deal with in the afterlife. I think that's when we will be manipulated in so many different ways. So what we need to be trying to do is learning to reject whatever it's giving us that is keeping us trapped, right? Like even the things in this room that are keeping us trapped, even the things that are making us feel like, you know what, maybe this room isn't so bad because, you know, I have all this money, or I have all these women, or, you know, I have love in my life, I have this and that. I think it needs to get to a point where we actually realize that whatever we are being given in this room is we're being given so that we'll actually remain in this room, right? So that we'll never feel like escaping. So even in the afterlife, I think we'll be given things that are going to make us want to come back, or that are going to make us want to remain there instead of like trying to wake up. So we need to learn to detach ourselves to from the things that are keeping us stuck until we reach the realms where we are able to understand what we are, realms where we are actually powerful, where we are not relying on other beings, where we are 100% relying on ourselves. Because if in any world where we are relying on other beings to actually survive, we can be manipulated. So we cannot be sure that these beings have our best interest at heart. So I think that is what's happening in this realm, and I think that's what's going to happen in the afterlife. So we have to, yeah, we must expect a very high level of manipulation, but we must be ready. And I think we can train ourselves, you know, in this realm to actually detach ourselves, to not believe the lies that we will be told. I think in the afterlife, these beings are also going to, you know, transform into people that we love in this room, right? Some of the people that have passed away, or even people who have not, who will not have passed away, you know, before, who will have not passed away before us. And these people are going to, you know, be trying to convince us to do things that are actually going to keep us stuck. So that's when we will really, really, really need to be smart, because I think this is nothing. I do understand we're being manipulated, but I think this is nothing compared to the level of manipulation that you're going to deal with. I mean, imagine if you're a Christian and you meet Jesus in the afterlife. Of course, you're not even going to ask questions. You'll be like, I mean, I've been praising this guy my whole life, and he's here. Whatever he's telling me is true. So you're going to be stuck, because you're not going to ask yourself, why was this guy hiding all my life? Why is he only appearing now? And what if the things that he's telling me are to actually keep me stuck? You know, what if this is not actually Jesus? I mean, I've never like seen Jesus before, so why should I even think that this is Jesus? You know. So yeah, I think people are going to be manipulated in so many different ways, you know, after this. So they got to be ready. That's what I tell people, you know, every day, that you got to learn to detach yourself so that you are no longer manipulated. Because you are like this force is trying to manipulate you in so many different ways. It will even use the people in your life, just like we're talking about NPCs, right? It will even use people in your life to manipulate you. They will even use people in your life to make you feel like you are not doing what you need to be doing. So try to do what makes the most sense. Believe what makes the most sense. Don't try to be like everyone else. Don't follow other people. If what they're doing does not make sense, don't follow them. I think, yeah, that's how we prepare ourselves, because we become stronger when we rely on ourselves 100% rather than relying on something that seems to be outside of ourselves.
Yeah. It's like we're in boot camp getting ready to go into battle, what lies beyond. And I've personally been purging a whole load of my personal shit. I mean, don't worry about cursing. I do it all the time on this show. So I've been getting rid of like my records. I've got a huge record collection. I've been a DJ, and I never thought I'd get rid of my records. I thought they're going to stay with me for all my life. But I've realized that these are attachments. These are attachments to this physical realm and this life. And I don't want to have any attachment to this place at all when my time comes to leave. So I'm starting to get rid of stuff. I'm selling books. I'm selling records. I'm just getting rid of all my shit. And also, I heard a really great conversation with Howdy McCoskey and Eric
Yeah.
Dubé recently, where Howdy was talking about recapitulation exercises. And this is the idea that we might undergo this sort of life review when we pass over. We're going to be shown visions of our life and our experiences and the effect that we've had on others. And these beings, perhaps, if they're out there, are going to try and guilt shame us into coming
Mm.
back because we've got some karma to resolve and some personal shit to sort out. And Howdy's idea was just do the life review yourself in this life. So you
Yeah.
yourself look back over everything you've done and you're very honest about it. Things that you might be a bit ashamed of, you just face up to them, write them down, admit it, just say, yes, I did that, and do the life review now so that you don't face it when you cross over because it's already been done. You've come to terms with all that stuff. You've calibrated it all. You know, that actually made a lot of sense to me.
Yeah. That makes complete sense. That makes complete sense. And I think the more you do that, the more you heal. And the more you heal, the more you won't feel like you need to revisit the past because you've healed. So I think that makes a lot of sense. And I never really thought of that. I've watched the interview that you did with Howdy McCuskey, and you know what's interesting? The morning that I watched that interview is the same day that I actually received your invitation. Like that's crazy. Like I watched that interview, and then I received your invitation the same day. I was like, wow,
Mm.
that this really does prove that this
Well, the
this is
synchronicities are off the scale. And I don't know if it's been the same for you, but since I've been getting into all this material, I've just been having more and more crazy synchronicities. You know, literally,
yeah.
I'll wake up with a song in my head and then I'll go out and I'll hear that very song playing in a shop or something. And it happens every single day. So something's at play here, some kind of force. I don't know what.
Yeah, it's actually like it gets to a point where I'm not shocked anymore. I've had synchronicities that should actually shock me, like, but I'm no longer shocked anymore because I'm like, it always happens. It's actually crazy that, we things like that happen. But I think that's what tells us that this is not the real reality, and it also tells us that we have power. We can manifest what we want in this reality, but not in the way that we understand. What I think is that this AI tries its best to prevent us from manifesting what we want. And because it understands how we manifest, because if we are consciousness experiencing itself, of course, we are the dreamers of reality. So this AI, to keep us under control, it has to make sure that we don't know how we are creating this reality. So I think that's why there's synchronicities, because we are manifesting this reality, but we don't know how we are doing that. And this AI is trying its best to make sure that we don't realize that. Because if we realize that, we realize that we're God. We realize that we are consciousness, like having this experience. We realize that this AI, this Yahweh thing is not the real God. But yeah, back to what you were saying about like what how the Makassi was saying. Mm, I I I really think that each and every person should do that every single day. I mean, let me say every single night. Like when you go to sleep, you think about how your day was. What did you do right? What did you do wrong? How can you be better tomorrow? Like doing that, that's gonna actually help you heal and not feel like you need to go back and do something over again. And also we must learn to um make it up to other people. Let's say I mistreat another person today. Tomorrow I must find a way to make it up to them, right? Because it can happen. We are humans. So if I mistreat a person today, I must find a way to make it up to them tomorrow so that I will live with no regrets.
Hmm.
So that even after this, I'm not gonna feel like, yeah, I need to go back and actually try to do better. Like, of course, being a human, you're gonna make mistakes. It's impossible to not make mistakes. But if
Hmm.
you you go through what you have done during the day. Tomorrow you might actually do better. So yeah, I think like what Howdy Motkowski said is like that's really, really interesting.
Yeah. Try and put it right in this lifetime so that you don't have to do it beyond. And also attachments. You've got to let go of all these attachments. You mentioned
Yeah.
earlier there's some people that might be happy with things they've got in life. They like their money, they like their fast car, their house, their yacht. They might be into women or drugs or alcohol. You've just got to let go of all that stuff, because I feel that's the sort of thing that is going to keep you rooted here and
Yeah.
prevent you from getting away from it. So you just got to, when your time comes to pass over, just have as few attachments to this physical realm as possible. Let them all
Yeah,
go.
exactly. Yeah, I like what you said about like getting rid of your records, because I actually struggled with like with like I have what do they call it, hoarding. Right? Is hoarding. Like when you can't get rid of the stuff that you have. Like
Oh,
you
hoarding. Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
so yeah, I actually struggled with that for so many years until I realized that that's me being attached to the things that I have. So I must learn to get rid of the things that I have. And,
Yeah.
the more I did that, the easier it was for me to actually, detach myself from a lot of things. I remember last year, I lost my laptop, and I wasn't, I wasn't like mad. Like my laptop had my pictures from uh, 2008. I had lots of memories, in that laptop. Music that I made, a lot of things. But then something made me realize that, what, these things really belong in this realm. Like I shouldn't be attached. I shouldn't be attached
Mm.
because if I'm attached, let's just say I go into the afterlife and I'm attached. I'm gonna be like, you know what? I still wanna listen to that song that I made in 2008. You know,
Or I never
so
completed that track. Maybe I should go back and do it again.
and these beings are gonna actually, because I think they understand this, they're gonna actually like, tell you about this project that you've worked on. Be like, yeah, you remember you worked on this project and you didn't finish it. If you finish that project, you would have become very, very successful. So you need to go back and try to work on that project. So yeah, that's how they are going to manipulate, some of us into like coming back into this thing. So
Yeah.
yeah, you're right. Like we need to practice the art of detachment. We need to understand that the things that we're attached to in this realm really belong in this realm, and it's not a good realm. It's not a good realm to be attached to anything, really.
Mm. I used to joke years ago that I'm going to get buried with my records, and now I'm absolutely in the opposite direction. I want nothing to do with any of that stuff. I don't even want to be buried, actually. But anyway, what positive, uplifting messages would you like to leave the listeners with? Because, as I say, I always try and leave these conversations on a positive note. I don't want people going away feeling hopeless and despairing and bleak. I want people to feel empowered and uplifted. So, what sort of message would you like to leave people with at the close of this conversation?
um, I think the more you do what you need to be doing, the more powerful you become. Right. Not now you might be feeling hopeless. You might be feeling like uh there's no way that you can be free. But the more you learn what you need to learn, the more you understand what you need to understand, you'd realize that things become easy. Like it becomes, a bit easier than it used to be. So it's harder in the beginning because you are waking up, and that it's the reason why it's hard in the beginning is because of your attachment, like your attachment to your old life, right? It's like waking up is like being born again. So you are too attached to your old life, and you know how hard it is to actually leave the things that you are attached to. It's like if you're living a relationship, it's gonna be hard in the beginning. So it's like that. It's gonna be hard now because you are still waking up. But if you keep on doing what you need to do to free yourself, you realize that things are gonna become better. Another thing that you must realize is that you are consciousness itself, right? There isn't any being that is like more powerful than you are. It's just that you believe that because that's what you've been made to believe. There's something that wants you to believe that, and it's been trying its best to make sure that you believe that. So you believe that. But if you keep on trying to wake up, it will get to a point where you realize that there is nothing that is more powerful than you. Even if you're suffering, even if things really seem to be hard right now, but there's nothing that is actually more powerful than you. The only way something can be more powerful than you is if you give it authority, is if you make it more powerful than you, because you're consciousness itself. You're the one who give authority. So if you say there's something that is more powerful than you and you believe that, then it will be more powerful than you, because that's you actually is giving that thing authority. But if you decide that there's nothing that's more powerful than you, then there is nothing more powerful than you, because you are the one who decides. Like if you're in a dream and you are scared of something, and you believe that it's gonna hurt you. Like if you really believe that, then it's more powerful than you and it can hurt you. But if you don't really believe that, then you can actually be able to defeat it by not believing that it's powerful. So yeah, I would say, as the more you wake up, the more you realize that there is nothing that is actually more powerful than you. But you need to do the things that you need to do, like what we were talking about, like practicing detachment, also reevaluating your life, looking at your mistakes and trying to make amends, try to do better next time, and also like remain on this path. Don't try to follow other people. Don't try to fit don't try to fit in this world, because that's what's going to keep you stuck. The people who are not waking up are people who fit in perfectly. I don't know anyone who actually fits in perfectly who is in stuck. Right. So yeah, it's you can wake up, you can free yourself. Like this like it's not going to be like this forever, but keep on doing the right things.
Yep, that's pretty good advice. So you've got your YouTube channel, and I'll link to that in the notes below. Is there any other output that you'd like to mention? Anything else you put out there, or is it really just all about your YouTube?
It's really all about my YouTube for now, but I'm writing a book. I'm not really sure when I'll release it to the public. I want it to be like I want to say everything. Like I want it to be. I'm obsessed with this book. Like I want it to really, really, really help people. So I haven't decided when I will release it to the public, because I'm also learning, and I feel like the more I learn, the more I go back and edit some stuff, so that I will actually put out something that I know is really going to help people. But yeah, for now it's just YouTube, and yeah, people can actually also follow me on Instagram. That's where I actually talk to people. I think it's good that we communicate more. Like the more I talk to people, the more I learn. One thing that I've realized about like most of my followers on YouTube is that they are very, very they're very, very conscious, and you can learn a lot from them. It even gets to a point where you'll be like, why are you listening to me? Because you are more conscious than me. Like there are a lot of ththings that you understand that I don't understand. So yeah, people can also follow me on Instagram. It's at Benedictine the vegan on Instagram. Yeah, that's where I'm free to talk to people.
Okay, great. Thanks for a great conversation today, brother.
No, thanks for having me, man. I manifested this, just like I was telling you. Yeah, thanks, man.
All right, cheers.
This is just
I'm picking up vibrations. I'm picking up vibrations. I'm picking up vibrations.